The dusty town of Red Rock sprawled under the relentless sun of the Arizona Territory, a place where fortunes were made in silver mines and lost in saloons. Jake Harlan, a rugged cowboy with a scar across his left cheek from a bar fight in Tombstone, had ridden into town 3 years ago seeking work. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with sun-bleached hair and eyes as sharp as a hawk's, always scanning the horizon for trouble or opportunity. Jake wasn't the type to settle down. He lived for the open range, the thrill of herding cattle across vast plains, and the occasional high-stakes poker game. But times were tough, and the mines offered steady pay, so he took a job at the Harlan Mine, no relation, just a cruel coincidence, owned by the wealthiest man in Red Rock, Elias Blackwood. Elias was a tyrant, a barrel-chested brute with a mustache like a broom and a reputation for crushing anyone who crossed him. He owned half the town, the bank, the general store, even the sheriff's loyalty. His workers toiled in the dark shafts, extracting silver that lined his pockets while they coughed up dust and dreams. Jake started as a simple miner, swinging a pickaxe in the stifling heat, but his quick wits and unflinching nerve soon caught Elias's eye. Within a year, Jake was promoted to foreman, overseeing a crew of 20 men. He enforced discipline with a firm hand but fair words, earning respect where Elias only inspired fear. The men called him Iron Jake, not just for his strength but for his unyielding sense of justice. One sweltering afternoon, as the sun dipped toward the jagged mountains, Jake was called to Elias's opulent office atop the mine's headquarters. The building was a fortress of adobe and timber, with windows overlooking the sprawling operation below. Jake wiped the sweat from his brow, adjusted his worn Stetson, and stepped inside. The room reeked of cigar smoke and polished leather. Elias sat behind a massive oak desk, his beady eyes narrowing as Jake entered. "Harlan," Elias growled, his voice like gravel under boots. "Sit down. We need to talk." Jake took the chair opposite, his boots leaving faint dust prints on the Persian rug. He met Elias's gaze steadily, unflinching. "What's on your mind, boss?" Elias leaned back, puffing on his cigar, exhaling a cloud that hung in the air like a threat. "You've been a good worker. Reliable. The men listen to you. But loyalty, that's what I value most. And I've got a proposition that'll test yours." Jake's instincts prickled. Elias wasn't known for propositions, he issued commands. "I'm listening." Elias's lips curled into a smirk. "My daughter, Amelia. She's not much to look at. Folks call her ugly, and they're right. Face like a mule's backside, body like a sack of potatoes. But she's my blood, and I need her taken care of. Marry her, Harlan. Make her your wife, and you'll have a stake in this mine. Refuse, and you're out. Gone from Red Rock by dawn. No pay, no references. You'll be blacklisted from every job west of the Mississippi." The words hung heavy in the room. Jake's mind raced. He'd heard whispers about Amelia Blackwood. She was rarely seen, kept secluded in the family mansion on the hill, away from prying eyes. Rumors painted her as a recluse, deformed perhaps, or cursed with some affliction that made her hideous. Marriage? To a woman he'd never met, on pain of ruin? It was madness. But Jake had no family, no ties. The mine was his life now, and Elias held all the cards. "Why me?" Jake asked, his voice steady despite the storm inside. Elias chuckled, a cold sound. "Because you're strong. You won't run. And let's be honest, you're no prize yourself with that scar. It's a match made in hell, but it'll secure my legacy. Think it over, but not too long." Jake stood, his jaw set. He could ride out, find work elsewhere. But Elias's reach was long, blacklisting meant starvation in these parts. And a stake in the mine? That could mean wealth, power. Freedom, eventually. "All right," he said finally. "I'll marry her." Elias's eyes gleamed. "Smart man. The wedding's in a week. Get cleaned up. And Harlan, don't disappoint me." The days blurred into a frenzy of preparations. Jake was fitted for a suit, black and stiff, nothing like his comfortable denim and leather. The town buzzed with gossip, whispers followed him in the saloon, men clapping him on the back with pitying grins. Poor Jake, tying the knot with the Blackwood beast, they'd say. He ignored them, focusing on the mine, pushing his crew harder to distract from the dread gnawing at him. He tried to learn more about Amelia. Asking around yielded little. She was 25, educated by tutors, fond of books and music. But her appearance? Ugly as sin, the bartender confided one night over whiskey. Saw her once, veiled up, but those eyes, like a demon's. Jake drowned the doubts in liquor, telling himself it was just a business deal. Love wasn't in the cards for a cowboy like him anyway. The night before the wedding, Jake sat on the porch of his small cabin, staring at the stars. The air was cool, carrying the distant howls of coyotes. He thought of his past, orphaned young, drifting from ranch to ranch, always alone. Marriage to an ugly woman couldn't be worse than that solitude. Or could it? He sharpened his knife, a habit when nerves frayed, the blade glinting in the moonlight. Wedding day dawned clear and hot. The ceremony was held in the Blackwood Mansion's grand hall, a cavernous room with crystal chandeliers and walls lined with oil paintings of stern ancestors. Guests filled the pews, mine executives, town notables, all there to curry favor with Elias. Jake stood at the altar, sweat trickling down his back under the suit. The preacher, a nervous man with a Bible clutched like a shield, droned on about eternal bonds. Then, the doors opened. Amelia entered, veiled in white lace that obscured her entirely, her figure shrouded in a voluminous gown. She moved with surprising grace, gliding down the aisle on Elias's arm. Jake's heart pounded. This was it, the point of no return. Vows were exchanged in a haze. "I do," he said, his voice firm. Rings slipped on fingers. The preacher pronounced them man and wife. Elias beamed from the front row, his mustache twitching. The guests applauded politely, but Jake felt their eyes on him, waiting for the reveal. As the ceremony ended, tradition demanded he lift the veil for the first kiss. His hand trembled slightly as he reached out, fingers brushing the delicate fabric. The room fell silent, breaths held in anticipation. Jake's fingers gripped the edge of the veil, the lace soft yet unyielding, like the web of a spider he'd once seen in the mines, trapping flies in its silken threads. The grand hall of the Blackwood Mansion seemed to shrink around him, the chandeliers casting flickering shadows that danced like ghosts on the polished marble floor. The guests leaned forward in their seats, a sea of faces twisted in morbid curiosity, miners with calloused hands, merchants in fine suits, women fanning themselves with lace handkerchiefs, all eager for the spectacle. Elias Blackwood sat in the front, his barrel chest puffed out, eyes locked on Jake with a predatory gleam, as if daring him to falter now. The preacher cleared his throat nervously, his Bible still open to the vows, beads of sweat dotting his forehead. "You may now kiss the bride," he repeated, his voice a whisper lost in the tension-thick air. Jake's mind screamed warnings: run, bolt for the door, saddle up and ride into the desert night. But his body obeyed the script, hand lifting the veil inch by agonizing inch. The fabric whispered against itself, a sound like dry leaves in the wind, revealing first the hem of a chin, pale and smooth, then lips, full, red, curved in a faint, enigmatic smile. Gasps rippled through the crowd as more emerged, a nose straight and elegant, cheeks high and flushed with a natural rose, eyes, oh, those eyes, emerald green, sparkling with intelligence and something deeper, a fire that burned through Jake's defenses. Her hair cascaded in golden waves, framing a face not ugly, but breathtakingly beautiful, like a painting come to life from one of those European masters Elias bragged about owning. Amelia Blackwood was no monster. She was a vision, flawless, radiant, her beauty so profound it stole the breath from the room. Jake staggered back a step, his hand frozen mid-air, the veil now fully lifted and draped over her shoulders. Shock coursed through him like lightning from a summer storm, electrifying every nerve. This couldn't be. The rumors, the whispers, they'd all lied. Or had they? His mind reeled, piecing together fragments, Elias's smirk, the seclusion, the veiled appearances. Why hide such beauty? Why force a marriage under threat? Amelia's eyes met his, holding a secret, a depth that pulled him in. She leaned forward slightly, her voice a soft murmur only he could hear. Surprised, husband? The word husband dripped with irony, laced with a challenge that sent chills down his spine. The hall erupted in murmurs, confusion spreading like wildfire. That's not her, someone whispered. Must be a trick. Elias rose, clapping his hands slowly, deliberately, his laughter booming. Well done, Harlan. You've passed the test. Now, kiss your bride. But Jake hesitated, the shock morphing into suspicion. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. As he leaned in, lips brushing hers in a chaste kiss that tasted of honey and deceit, he felt a prick at his neck, subtle, like a mosquito bite. The world tilted, colors blurring, but he shook it off, attributing it to nerves. The reception followed in a whirlwind, toasts raised, music from a string quartet filling the air, guests mingling under the crystal lights. Amelia stayed by his side, her arm linked with his, her touch electric, sending jolts through him. As the evening wore on, Jake stole moments to observe her. She moved with predatory grace, charming the guests with wit and laughter, her beauty drawing men like moths to flame. But in quiet lulls, he caught glimpses, a shadow in her eyes, a flicker of something inhuman, cold. Elias watched them constantly, his expression triumphant, like a gambler who'd just won the pot. Night fell, and the guests departed, leaving the mansion echoing with emptiness. Jake and Amelia retired to the bridal suite, a lavish room with a four-poster bed draped in silk, candles flickering on silver stands. The door clicked shut behind them, sealing them in. Jake turned to her, questions burning. Why the lies? The rumors about your ugliness? Amelia shed her gown slowly, revealing a figure sculpted like a goddess, but as she stepped into the candlelight, Jake's blood ran cold. Her skin shimmered unnaturally, scales glinting faintly under the surface, like a serpent shedding its skin. She smiled, teeth sharpening before his eyes, elongating into fangs. Ugly? Oh, darling, beauty is subjective. But the truth. Father needed a strong man, one who wouldn't flee at the first sign of difference. Jake backed away, heart hammering. What are you? She advanced, eyes glowing now, green turning to slit-pupiled gold. A curse, passed down the Blackwood line. By day, human. By night, something more. Father hid me to protect the family secret, but he needs an heir. You agreed to marry me, sight unseen. Now, you'll help continue the bloodline. Horror gripped him. The prick at his neck, it wasn't a bite, it was an injection, a serum Elias must have arranged. Jake felt it now, burning in his veins, changing him. His skin itched, bones shifting with cracks that echoed in the room. Amelia laughed, a sound like hissing wind. Shocked? You should be. The veil hid more than my face, it hid our fate. He lunged for the door, but his legs buckled, transforming, scales erupting along his arms. The mirror across the room reflected his changing form, eyes slitting, teeth lengthening. Amelia circled him, her own transformation complete, a humanoid serpent, beautiful yet terrifying, coils where legs should be. We'll rule this town together, my love. Father's mind will fund our empire. But first, the consummation. Jake's mind screamed in terror, but his body betrayed him, the curse taking hold. Suspense built as he fought the change, clawing at the floor, visions flashing, Elias's knowing grin, the guests' oblivious cheers, the life he'd lost. Was there escape? A weakness in the curse? He remembered the knife in his boot, sharpened the night before. With a surge of will, he grabbed it, slashing at Amelia. She recoiled, blood, green and viscous, spilling. But she healed instantly, laughing. Foolish cowboy. The bond is sealed. You're one of us now. The night stretched into eternity, Jake's screams muffled by the mansion's thick walls. Outside, the coyotes howled in sympathy, the stars indifferent witnesses. Elias sat in his study below, sipping whiskey, plotting expansions. The shock wasn't just the beauty, it was the monster beneath, and now, Jake was trapped in its embrace forever. As dawn approached, Jake lay exhausted, the transformation reversing with the light. Amelia, human again, stroked his hair. "Welcome to the family." But in his eyes, defiance flickered. He would find a way out, or die trying. The suspense lingered, a promise of battles to come in the shadows of Red Rock.